Senate Republicans are expected to reveal some details when it comes to the relief package and dealing with COVID. They appear to have reached an agreement with the Trump administration. Here's what we know. It certainly means that the pressure is on for Republicans and Democrats to reach a final deal. The stakes are high. That extra $600 is running out this week. Unemployment benefits previously allocated in other coronavirus relief legislation are days away from expiring and comes as millions of Americans are facing the threat of eviction come the end of the month. All of this is compounded by the fact that jobless claims that at one point seemed to dip are once again increasing. The schools, and of course schools are set to reopen in the coming weeks, and they're still questioning whether it's safe to bring students and teachers back into the classroom. And looming over all of this, of course, is the election in November, just a little over 100 days away. So we want to bring in CBS News reporter Grace Segers to talk a little bit more about the latest. Let us start with this relief package that, boy, I mean, they're really keeping people on the edge of their seat, because that extra $600, and it looks like it's going to be diminished, is what's keeping a lot of people in their homes and allowing them to keep up with their bills. What do we know about the Senate's proposal?
So you make a very good point with the consideration of an extension of this unemployment insurance. That really is the big thing that everybody is looking at. So Steven Mnuchin, the Treasury Secretary, said this morning that they were looking at a 70% amount of people's wages, because right now, currently, people are receiving an additional $600 on top of their unemployment check. The problem that Republicans have with that is that they believe if people are making more while they're unemployed, that acts as a disincentive for them to try return back to work. So Steven Mnuchin is saying, well, let's give them 70% of what they're already making. That way, they will have an incentive to find work again. Of course, the people who are dependent on these checks are saying, well, wait a minute, I've got rent coming up, I have to take care of my family, I need this extra money. So it's a very big concern, with Democrats saying that the extra $600 should be extended, Republicans concerned about the disincentive to return to work, and everyone just trying to find a middle ground about this, because people are really suffering and going to continue to suffer.
Grace, let me ask you about this. There's a hearing, as you know, scheduled for next Friday with the country's top health experts on the need for a national coronavirus strategy. Since the executive branch has left it mostly to the states to fight the virus, do we know if the legislative branch has plans to tackle some kind of a national strategy with the next relief package?
Yes and no. So Democrats passed their own version of a bill a couple of months ago that would be the next phase of coronavirus legislation, but this bill was dead on arrival in the Senate. And their bill included a national testing strategy. Now, according to what we know about what the Republicans and the White House have agreed to, they're saying that they are going to do $16 billion in new funding for testing, as well as $9 billion that hadn't been allocated already in old funding for testing. But that said, we're not really seeing a national strategy in testing. It really is primarily up to the states to figure out how things are going to go.
House also has been working on some other legislation, just passed a bill to remove Confederate statues from the Capitol, as well as to tighten presidential pardoning powers. Do we know if those bills are going to get any traction in the Senate?
To be honest, probably not. Senate Majority Mitch McConnell has already said that he's not interested in removing Confederate statues, that he doesn't want to erase history. So that bill is probably dead on arrival. The bill limiting presidential pardon powers, also probably dead on arrival, because as we know, Republicans control the Senate, Democrats control the House. So they fundamentally have very different priorities, very different ideas about what should be happening. And McConnell has the power to choose what goes up for a vote on the Senate floor. So if he says he doesn't like a bill, you're not going to see it on the Senate floor. So I think that both of these bills probably don't have a future in the Senate.
Sticking on Capitol Hill, let's stay there, Grace. I want to ask you about this fascinating development that I've been watching over the last couple of days. Congresswoman Liz Cheney has been catching a lot of heat from fellow Republicans and President Trump over accusations that she is against the president. And it's just fascinating to me because I wonder, regardless of how the election turns out in November, are we starting to see what may become a new Tea Party? And it's not T-T-E-A, more like T as in Trump, where you've got people like Matt Gaetz and Jim Jordan, those folks sort of forming this very Trumpian type of party within the Republican Party, and folks like Liz Cheney and others being distinctly separate, and perhaps even your more traditional, if that even exist anymore, Republicans. I don't know if my take is accurate or if it's completely out of left field, but how did this, I guess, explain how this inter-party feud escalated and why it bodes not well for the future.
You know, people calling Liz Cheney a Republican in name only was not on my bingo card for 2020, but here we are. It's very interesting because Liz Cheney, she is the top woman in power on the House side, on the Republican side of the House. And she has been pretty loyal to the president, but she's also not been afraid to show some dissent. So why some people are mad, including the president, is that she's appeared to side against the president and with Dr. Anthony Fauci, who is the top infectious diseases expert in this country, and who Trump has had some disagreements with, and she has repeatedly said that she believes Dr. Fauci is an important voice and we should listen to him. Now, another thing that is really concerning for conservative Republicans is that Cheney supported the primary opponent to Congressman Thomas Massie, who, going way back to March, you may remember tried to block the vote on the CARES bill, which was the ginormous relief package that Congress did pass. And he forced everyone to return to the Capitol to vote on this, which did not make Liz Cheney and other Republicans very happy. So she supported his primary opponent, and that is a big sign of disloyalty to people on the conservative side. So Jim Jordan and Matt Gaetz are saying, well, Liz Cheney isn't supporting our ideas and our version of the future. And we're seeing people like Jim Jordan and Matt Gaetz, who are allies of the president, gaining power in the House. So I think what you said, Vlad, about it being a T for Trump party is very accurate. That is something that we are currently seeing, and it'll be interesting to see whether Liz Cheney can regain some of that clout, because she still has significant support from Kevin McCarthy, the House Minority Leader, or if we're going to see the ascendant of those even further on the right.
You made a great point, Grace, when you pointed out that Liz Cheney, people would question her Republican credentials. I mean, the president has just tweeted that Tom Ridge, former Governor Tom Ridge, who led the Department of Homeland Security, is a failed rhino. This is a guy who won election as a congressman 5 times in a row, was an underdog in a gubernatorial election, defeated his opponent, was wounded in Vietnam, received the Bronze Star for Valor. He's failed. That is the word. It just boggles the mind. Grace Segers, always great to have you. Thank you very much for your clarity and your reporting. We appreciate it.
Thank you.